As filler episodes go, this one's a doozy. That's right. It's that time again. So I hope you're sitting down ready because the all new episode of Invincible has dropped, which means we're going to talk about it. What's up, my know-it-alls? It's right. It is your host, Mr. Know-it-all. And I'm here to talk about the brand new episode of Invincible, which just dropped. That's season 2, episode 7, titled, I'm Not Going Anywhere. Now, far be it from me to get ahead of myself, but man, they put so much into this episode, but at the same time, it's all going somewhere. So every now and again, you get these episodes like this. I tend to call them filler episodes for those of you playing at home. And what it is they're laying the groundwork for things. A lot of things. The problem is sometimes it can feel a little messy. So let's get into it. The episode starts with Mark and Amber at Comic-Con, or at least the equivalent of Comic-Con. They're walking around, they're trying to spend time together. And there's several times where he's like, "Is you sure it's okay?" Or this and that. And she's like, "Yeah, no, I'm good." And they're really setting up for us this idea that they're trying, especially after last week's revelations, that they probably should be talking to one another. It's a hopeful start, but I think we all kind of see where this train wreck is going. Meanwhile, our good old buddy Rick Explode, Mr. Bullet in the Noggin, also affectionately I called him Mr. Boom Boom last week, but he tries to get back up on the horse, and there's a mission he goes on. It's very simple-ish. They send Mark to help him sort of sort it out, and he's like, "Dude, I really need this." And Mark's like, "All right, fine, whatever." So Mark takes care of the little fish while he takes care of the big squid, octopus, I don't know. Meanwhile, back at the Guardians headquarters, Robot's doing his best to try to help Monster Girl, and it's just not really working out that well. Meanwhile, at the same time, the Immortal is really struggling with Duplicate's death, and it hit him harder than any other wife he's had in the past, because clearly, as the Immortal, people are going to come in out of your life, but this is the first time that a one of his relationships was a comrade, with someone who fought with him, with someone who loved in the heat of what was going on, that could easily stand shoulder to shoulder with him. So it's a much bigger deal. And at the end of the day, he's like, I need a day. I need a break. I need a day off. And he wants to quit, but Cecil's not going to let him quit. William's boyfriend, Rick, is having a lot of issues with his torturous past. That whole Sinclair situation where he was literally tortured and turned into a robot and disassembled, but now the government's put him back. So he's kind of he's in a weird existential place of, what am I? Who am I? What do I do? This and that. How do I continue? On the flip side, William's uncle Donald is also dealing with stuff like that, and he gets to the point where he's like, I want to quit, this and that, and he's like, "You erased my memory, and that violated that crossed a line." And Cecil's looking at him like, "You're the one who asked for this." So finally he says to him, you've always had the choice. The choice has always been yours. Come to find out, Donald's died like 39 times. And he chose to have his memories removed because he thought to himself, well, who could live with that level of trauma? Especially when you start going again and again and again. So it's not long before Don catches a call from William that there's an issue with Rick. And so he goes, and Rick wants to unalive himself. And Donald has to talk him through it. And Rick's like, "You don't understand what I'm going through." And Donald's like, "Oh, don't I?" And he opens up his shirt. It's like a robot. And he's like, "Bro." And he explains him. He's like, I've died 39 times and this and that. And Donald comes to the conclusion that he's had his memories erased, but maybe that wasn't the right choice. Specifically because it takes away his agency. And that begins to become a thread and a through line in the entire episode is character agency. What does agency mean? In your life, you have the ability to control your thoughts. You have the perception of free will in terms of how I can choose to drink this, or I can choose to eat that, or I can choose to go meet this person. I can choose to break up with them, love that person, blah, 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 everything. You have this perceived free will. Everybody in this episode is dealing with the conundrum that is their free will, or what we call their agency. Robot is trying to enable Monster Girl to have some level of agency. He wants her to be able to continue to be a member of the team, but not get younger and younger and younger. There's a moment where where Black Invincible and Black Samson are having a conversation, and he's literally pointing out all the defects of everyone. Okay. And so that's literally part of what it's again, that through line. So now you have Donald, who's come to the conclusion he has to retake his agency. Because at first he thought, see, that was the problem. He thought the GDC, he thought they had taken away his decision-making, only to find out it was him who had made the ultimate decisions to begin with. That changes the narrative. It flips it on its head. I mean, when you stop and think about it, if there's a situation you think you don't control, by its very nature, you have the power to change whatever that thing is. And that's what Donald comes to. He realizes, well, shoot, I chose this. The mission is important. I'm going to go ahead and make a different choice now. I love that idea that it's never too late to make another choice. I think it's good storytelling. So while they're laying the groundwork, while they're putting all these threads together and essentially giving us a filler episode, the show still has something to say. And I feel like Invincible is at its best when it says those things. And are we headed to the Mount Everest of things that it has to say? Not at this episode, but we're laying the groundwork for a major thing that this show has to say. And I'm really going to be here for it. And I know you are too. But let's continue. Mark makes the conscious decision to take as much time with Amber as he can. He asks Cecil for days off. He tells her, I'm committing to this. I want you to know this and that. And they go for a trip and they have a wonderful time. They go around the world. He shows her things. They go fly here and there. They talk about where they're going to spend their spring break. And that's when it all goes to hell. Anissa, a Viltrumite, shows up.
Mark Grayson, Invincible. Come with me now, or this woman dies.
And then she threatens Amber. She puts her hand on Amber's neck, and Amber loses it. Amber is frozen, and you can tell she is stunned. Her free will in that moment is gone. Her battle and struggle when it comes to Mark and his life and will we and won't we and what's going on and this and that becomes irrelevant very fast. And so in that moment, Mark has to make a choice and he chooses to, he's like, I'm going to come right now, this and that. And she says, be fast or I'll come back and everyone here dies, starting with her. He hugs Amber. He says, I'm sorry. And he heads up. They have a very interesting conversation. The conversation is basically that Mark has the ability to bring, like right now through his inaction, and this is the classic superhero, this is where Invincible becomes a deconstruction of the superhero genre. Up until this point, it has been it's been similar to The Boys a little, in that it's a look at superheroes from a different perspective. Now we really start to take it all apart. She explains to him, through your inaction, billions of people are dying. The planet has an 18% chance humanity has 18% chance of survival if it continues on its present course. They're either going to destroy themselves, destroy the planet, whatever else. And she's like, Viltrumite rule will put a stop to all of that. People will live in peace and harmony. We'll bring you advanced technology. There's literally, in her estimation, the way she's describing it, she says at one point,
Viltrumites do not kill for pleasure, even if they sometimes take pleasure in killing.
And I found that to be such an interesting, on its flip, outlook. See, you have to remember, I've been saying since the very beginning of the series, since season 1, Viltrumites are at their core an allegory of not just superheroes and this and that, but not like the Kryptonian Superman ideal that they came from another planet, the whole bit. Viltrumites are more like Saiyans from Dragon Ball. And that the fight invigorates them, excites them, makes them stronger. But at the same time, according to what she's saying, they don't want to go the negative route. They want people to embrace them as saviors and lords and whatever else, and we will ultimately we'll make you whatever you need to have. Okay? As we we free people to the Viltrumite Empire. Slavery and by any other name, right? Okay? So he at one point, Cecil's in his ear, he's like, hey, see, test out this theory, see how many humans are supposed to help. There's a big giant kaiju that just attacked this cruise liner. So they go, Mark's putzing around with this thing. This is sort of standing there looking, and next thing you know, she's like, boom, and she jumps in, literally flies through the thing's head, kills it, saves the day. They both pick up the ship that's been damaged enough, and they take it to an island. That's where they have a conversation. Mark stands to on his principles and refuses unequivocally to change.
Mark, listen to me. Say you'll do it. Say fine. say it.
No. And this is like, you're a fool. And what does she do? She rushes off and she beats the tar heels out of him, and then tells him, you need to get things right as quick as possible, because the guy who's coming after me is not going to be kind. The guy who comes after me, he's going to check and see if you're doing your job. And if you're not doing your job, you're done. Period. And Cecil and them are like, she's way stronger than you might think. The aftermath of this is rough. But remember, the entire theme of the episode is agency. As a writer I've been in writers' rooms, you always look for that one line of dialogue, that one piece of information that's going to tell you what everything is about. That's this scene. In this scene, Mark is talking to Amber, and Amber has clearly made up her mind. He knows it, she knows it, and one of the lines she says is,
but my life matters too. Maybe it's small, maybe it's not earth-shattering, but it matters.
I have no agency. When I'm with you, I feel small and significant. She said, I could do nothing. I was powerless. We as people do not like that feeling at all. We enjoy living in the perception of free will, and we want to exist there because that is a safe place. It tells us we are securely in control and have our hands on the steering wheel, and that's all we need. But the truth is, there are oftentimes, no, they're not superheroes and ghost rights and things like that, but the truth is there are often circumstances, we call them acts of God, you call them whatever, that are absolutely outside of our control, and we feel powerless in that moment. That's where Amber's at. Amber feels utterly powerless, and what does she do? She says, she's like, I can't, I thought I could live in your world, but I can't. Then clearly they break up. Mark gets a phone call from home. It says his mom. It's Angstrom Levy.
Hello, Mark. When are you coming home?
Oh yeah. And that's where they leave off in that moment. There is a button, and the button is that our Cyclops guy from outer space, he ends up getting himself captured, clearly on purpose. It's this whole situation. Anissa goes back to the ship. The general's like, oh, you failed to persuade him, this and that. And they happen upon dude in space, and they go and take him hostage, and he realizes, I want to be captured. Because she's not hurting him. Oh yeah, him getting bigger and stronger has made him bigger and stronger. He's been genetically altered. I have a feeling that we're going to find out he was somehow, when they nursed him back or whatever, or when he was originally created, I think he might have been spliced with Viltrumite DNA, because he's in the situation where every time he dies or every time he comes near death, he's getting stronger. But I'm like, by orders of magnitude. He's getting stronger the way Saiyans do in Dragon Ball. Unlike the Viltrumites, who you still have to work out and get stronger and this and that, but if you get defeated, or the harder you get defeated, when you heal, you do heal stronger. This guy does it 10 times better. So there you go. Now you know. And when you have the battle, you're halfway to being know yourself. What's an alt index for this episode of Invincible? I'm going to give it, honestly, as I've talked through it, there was a lot more here. It felt chaotic, but when you understand things like the theme of it and why they're going in the direction they're going in, it's actually not that chaotic. I will say this, the introduction of Anissa is about to bring us to the doorway of some very problematic situations. Not problematic in that they're bad, problematic in story for Mark. And it's going to be interesting to see how the series navigates some of this. And so I can't wait. If you know what I'm talking about, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it in the comments. I think I really am excited to see what they do in this series. I'm going to give this episode, at least for me, this week, an 8.5 out of 10. All right, guys, there you go. Comment below. Let me know what you think about this episode. Did you enjoy the concepts that they put forward? Are you seeing sort of the thematic elements? I know that some people got disheartened by them splitting the season into two. Like, why would you do it? What was the point? But at the end of the day, I'm enjoying the journey that we're on, mainly because I have read the comics, so I may want to recommend picking up there's various omnibuses specifically that put together the various volumes. And I think you'll enjoy the story. At least I am. I can't wait to see where they go with all of it. So, all right, guys, I'll talk to you very soon. Never forget, everyone loves a know-it-all.